Hello there. Welcome to Watcher's Report. It's Rodney. Alright, so this is part 2 of how we might be causing the polarity shift. And so I'm wondering, right, if you can affect the polarity of the planet you're on, if you can actually affect the polarity of the solar system. Something's going on with the polarity of the sun, I heard. So then it becomes this other factor here, because now what I'm seeing here when I'm looking at this, what I'm seeing is these lines here, these are pathway lines. It's really, though they're randomly scattered, this is where they're clumped in for this thing. They're more like this down here. If you look at how these are kind of just randomly scattered around, it's sun there. That's how they are. And if you see these, what these represent really is the polarity, is what I'm seeing, of the solar system. Now, a lot of the things I might say, because I'm not in my hypothesis, and I learn as I research. There's a lot of things that I use that cross, some of the things. That's why it leads me to some of my hypothesis. I've had this hyperthink disorder my whole life. So I'm sharing it with you now. It's my duty. People didn't have time to think, well, that's what I was here for. I got messed up in a certain way, so I'd end up in this pain cave, the hyperthink pain cave. But no, I'm thankful for it, because in it, I learned things. And the main thing I want to learn is how to love people, what we're here for. We say love, but what does that mean? Well, when we actually care and have genuine concern for each other. I found out this only comes by the Word of God. His Word is living, and we can't drum up love in ourselves. It's not really how it works. And we gotta learn how this works, right? Because we're fucking shit up, is what it looks like. So anyway. So what I'm saying is that there seems by what we're seeing here, there's a common polarity with all the entire solar system here. They're not all just going all these whatever ways and spinning wherever. Trust me. If these have these pathways that are interlinear, so is the polarity. Because they're spinning. And so, yeah. So there's this common part of where the tops and bottoms are. See? Top, 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 top. Bottom, bottom. There's generally there's a relation there, and relativity in it, and so then my hypothesis gets a little bit deeper then, because now what I'm saying, if you can understand, I want to also show you something you couldn't see before very good. But what I'm saying is there was a way that prehistoric civilizations had those who established those civilizations did it in such a way to stabilize the polarity of the planet and create your sources of energy for the common things needed. And it's supposed to go, and I think what it is that energy, it's supposed to be that we get our energy from those sources. When we create alternative energy sources and start we start powering them up, to unbelievable amounts of energy at random places in the planet, you could, this is what I'm saying, where we can be fallen here. This is where this is where this can happen here, and how we're causing it. Because what we're doing is we're affecting the primary conductive zones that stabilize the polarity. So if you see here, I wanted you to get a better look at this here. There's here. This part here, I wanted to get you a real good look here, if you could see. This is what I want you to see here. You see that? Watch this. See the red lines? Look at that. Wow. These are those zones here where you see the center there. Look at that. Very particular places. There's this like a one mind about how this is. You could tell by the way this is all networked in that very particular pattern. The critical pattern here. This is what I'm seeing. These are actually these are the sites of those megalithic structures that seem to be epicenters of electromagnetic energy. And this sort of is supposed to be the probable energy sources, your sources of energy. Because when you're doing this other random thing where, yeah, we're just going to do my son, he had a good response, because he's saying, yeah, it might be that CERN thing or whatever. Right, because they got right in Europe, it's part of Switzerland and Italy or something. Yeah, you've got these places creating unbelievable amounts of energy, and so my point is, if you do that and you create primary conductive zones that will confuse your polarity, it can cause a cataclysmic conflict here. I'm just wondering how this is going to affect the polarity of the solar system. Because it seems that they each state, and this is what I'm seeing from what I'm seeing in my mind. They're all a part of keeping each other stable. It's more like that thing about the collective effort. And that's it, if you notice when it's written about God, if you notice how God's word was written, there's a collective mind written. The maker of the universe, the mighty one of the universe, yeah, he's not into individualism. No, it's collective mind, collective efforts. That other stuff has to do with trying to be some rock star or whatever. I don't know. Make a name for yourself. That's ridiculous. What we need to be doing in this crisis is coming together and getting down on coming down to earth. And so, in it, we got to realize what we've been doing to Earth, Mother Earth. That I was saying. I remember that commercial, right? What was it? It was that margarine commercial for margarine. Parquet had this thing about there's a sensitivity about Mother Earth, and it was this commercial where, remember the lady with the big robe that was supposed to be Mother. She's saying, yeah, something about not fooling with Mother Nature. And then you see this big lightning bolt. Yeah, I remember that. If you can remember that commercial, there's a thing about that. We don't know the fury we're creating. There's such a fury coming for what our doings, what we've been doing here. All right, so then, in it, you could see how I was saying how the polarity and the shift and how it's going to affect. Really, this is where I'm saying it's all. I believe that the liquid core coming to the surface is all part of the adjustments happening from the polarity shift. It's getting to a point. It's getting to a tipping point. It's getting to that tipping point, I think. It's getting closer to that. And so then you can see right here as an example. If you look here, this is white hot right here. This part where it's really oozing out here. Because right here where it's spraying, you see how it's cool? This means it's cool right here. It's spraying out. But where it's really oozing, look at the temperature here. You could see here, within this one picture, right? You can see the entire thermotable here, right? All the way from your coolest temperatures that I would say when it gets to this kind of dark reddish here, this is where you're getting down to just like maybe 1300, 1500 degrees. When you're getting up into these orange colors here, the brighter orange color, this is where you're getting closer to 2000 degrees, like between 1800 and 2000 degrees. When you get down to this yellow part here, this outer core, this is around 3000. This is when you're getting to 3000 degrees. This is where it's starting to really become liquid. And then where it's white hot, this is understood to be, in the 4,000 to 5,000 degree temperatures. And so you could see here, right? The biggest point is you've got white hot coming out here. And this is the thing about supervolcanoes. The difference is those gigantic gargantuan ventilation ports are tapped into the deepest part of the liquid core. And so something exploding on that level with such intensity, there's pressures building here in this, what's going on here. And it's continuing to build more and more and more. Interesting how my video, anybody notice after my video, I don't get too many views. They bury me. I'm sure y'all understand that. Suddenly we had this stones raining from the heavens in Yellowstone National Park. It was the geyser. Bam! Pressure's building up. She's building up. So then, another interval in my hypothesis that I had to, because the way I'm saying that this is all, that this first part of this, how this polarity is, how this has to be sustained here, how this is all sustained, and the moon's function, right, and it makes it so that we can have, we can have shorelines that are somewhat temperate. You're not having something too stormy on your shorelines. And so there's a stability at the shorelines that seems to be getting lost here, and it seems to correlate. We have a correlation here. Correlation. So let me get this right side up here. See if you can see this little guy. You see that? So the way the moon that I'm saying, its main function and purpose, whether it's a big steel magneto ball or whatever, its main thing is to stabilize the polarity on the planet. And what we've been doing has been a force coming against that. The stability. The way the moon functions here, right? The way this moon functions here, it's amazing. But it really has to do with the stability of the polarity was a main part of how this has served planet Earth, whatever it is, and this is how it does. The way it stabilizes your shorelines is it creates these very particular lines of where your high tide lines are, your mid tide, your low tide, your spray zones. Now, if you have a polarity shift, you're going to affect these shorelines around the planet. Because when you're in the solar system, and I'm seeing it's affecting the stability of the jet stream and the temperature, because there's a slight tilting that's happening in the polarity shift. I don't know if you can have a polarity shift, and I don't know if you can have a polarity shift on this planet within this pattern, on this pathway, within this relative magnetic field here, without it tilting, without it affecting the planet's position as far as what's facing the sun. A slight, tiny little bit, and you're going to have some serious changes. It's pretty severe. So then, the way the moon, right, has been going around this life planet to stabilize it, you cause that certain, it's going to affect also the pathway of the moon. And so that is going to affect these shorelines. So then we got it so that we've got this unbelievable amount of flooding going on in these different cities around the world. You know, whether it's a third world country or some new modern city things, and some of these are right there on by the shorelines. A lot of these cities are still sitting under water. It's almost like the new terrain. You understand? Like the water is the new deal. And so this is a phenomenon that is correlating, because it could be that we're changing, right? It's what's happening is it's changing. So the flooding is a possible correlation to this what's going on. And that's of course why we have to have the sign in heaven, right? Oumuamua. And so, that's another part of it, right? Because isn't it interesting that what's prophesied in Revelation, that sounds like the destruction of the planet. You have this sign in heaven, and this scripture that goes, it sounds like it's talking about some kind of rapture going on. And this sign in heaven, Revelations 12, a sign appears in heaven. This correlates with what he said. There would be signs in heaven. And so this is the heaven in scriptures. It's talking about outer space generally, and maybe even parts of our atmosphere. And so, right, let's take a good look at this, right? Here's the sign. Sign in heaven. There she is. The interesting thing is they're getting that this is this kind of swirly reddish color. And guess what they say? Guess what's written in Revelations, at the end of Revelations, about this city that descends from heaven. Was made out of mainly carnelian. So then in this Apollo stuff they're coming up, I gotta mention this. I try to have a picture for you so you can see it, right? But, right, it's in this realm of finding these stations here on the moon that are like aliens building stations there or something. They actually found something like this Oumuamua. They found something like this crashed here. Apollo did, like way back. And they found what looked like an extraterrestrial in the state of suspended animation in some strange, interesting way. I've got pictures. I'm sure you've seen it. Y-Files. I'm a Y-File fan. A lot of my hypotheses are watching his. So then on that, they have this thing that was part of, that's on that family. If you look, it looks like Oumuamua, and it's got these this kind of writing on the top of it. So that's, and it looks exactly the same shape. So, and when it says first that it's talking about the New Jerusalem. So there's the reality of the people of what was going to be the New Jerusalem is really the people of God that are going to end up with God in the end. It's this little story at the end of Revelations, where it's just God's people that love God and love each other, all just together with God in the end. Isn't it? It's more like a children's story. That's how I see it, really. Little children. It's a kingdom of little children that are wise virgins. So then, okay, and so the sign in heaven. It says first that the crown of 12 stars. I'm really thinking, because it says that this sign in heaven has a crown of 12. I'm really thinking that there's something about, right, the chosen one who's returning. It's interesting how he appointed 12. There's this reoccurrence of 12. And so these are 12 rules. I really think that this has to do with him returning here. We're not realizing. Because at the time it says that this city descends from heaven, and it explains it is made of carnelian and jasper. Amazing. It's going to be a rest of. Finally, when it does descend on earth, it will be on a mountain, great mountain somewhere. But it first says the moon is first under her feet. It almost sounds like it's going to first land on the moon. Maybe have something to do with the moon turning blood red. You know, when it comes to this picture here, since we're on the Watcher's Report subject, and it's really about the reality of what is written in Enoch. It's been hidden by the world. There's a reason. So then in the Y-Files, right, he says, well, this looks like, but who brought this? Who brought this? It looks like a big spaceship. That's what it said. Everything points to this thing being a big spaceship. And you got to understand about what all the data of this thing is actually saying. So, if we can understand who brought this. Well, the one who was called the Azazel, the power of God, he's the one that became Satanel. Book of Enoch. So the one who was first, if you understand what happened with the fallen ones, what he said, he told Enoch, he was appointed scribe, described the whole account to Azazel. So it really came down to his brainchild. Had caused this thing that these other watchers fell into, and it had to do with taking the daughters of men and his wives and mingling with them without being covered. You can't just do anything in God's creation. And what happened is things happen in a way they didn't expect. So yeah, who brought this, right? This is flown here to start life here. And these are the ones. And so there's a reality to, yeah, there is extraterrestrials that are not the nice, friendly, gentle ones. That's the problem with fallen extraterrestrials. Extraterrestrials are really a part of God's network in heaven of humble servants. They just humbly serve. It's when they fall in the state of mortality and become evil that we become destroyers. Don't be worshipped as a god, or you'll become evil like we did. But in that question, who probably Azazel. A lot of theorists and the guys thing. They say that he's the reptilian, and so there is a correlation to that I gotta say, because it does say when I was saying about how Azazel became Satanas, the enemy of God. It means the enemy of God. He was no longer the power of God. He changed. It's like he died. It's the documentation of the death of those who are serving God in His universe. It's a horrible thing that happened. It's very sad. And so because of what happened, they've been waiting their judgment. They think that thing's first supposed to land here, and there's going to be war in heaven. And so there's already signs of what's going on, and somehow I think the government's maybe been tied to these dark ones that have been trapped on Earth. Okay. So they'll probably be in on the war in heaven, because it's going to be legions of angels coming, and there's going to be extraterrestrials battling in our own skies. They probably already are. There's reports that there already are, and there's also some things, engagements going on with aircraft. And they're not really wanting you to know. I think they're really shitting their pants, but they don't want it. Those big shots in control. None of those colonels wanting everybody to know they shit their pants. Okay, trust me. Down at the Pentagon, all these big colonels and generals and stuff, where they're shitting their pants over there, they're not wanting you all to know about it. Okay, so then you can't just rely on what they're going to tell you, right? Right. So thank you for coming again. That's part 2 of this hypothesis of how how our solar system was made, and how we could be affecting it. So stay tuned. We're going to keep playing with it. We'll see you later. Bye.